Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this news hour. With the news, I'm Shifara Olako, and thank you for being with us. Now, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has arrived in Djibouti for official visit. On his arrival, the Prime Minister was received by President Ismail Omar Guelleh. The Premier is expected to discuss bilateral and regional issues in Ethiopia and Djibouti with President Guelleh. The two countries have strong historical ties, sharing common culture, social values, and language. Ethiopia has been using the ports of Djibouti for its imports and exports. And currently, about 95% of Ethiopia's imports and exports are through Djibouti. Besides port usage, transport, telecommunications, trade and investment, security issues, electric power, and potable water are the various areas the two countries have developed strong ties. Djibouti is one of Ethiopia's significant trading partners. As of 2017, the trade volume between the two countries reached $299.8 million, and Ethiopia had a positive trade balance of $299.5 million in net exports to Djibouti. Djibouti is the third largest destination of Ethiopian exports in Africa, next to Somalia and Sudan. Now, the spokesperson of Foreign Affairs Ministry of Ethiopia, Ambassador Dina Mufti, has given the ministry's weekly press briefing to the media. In his presentation, he focused on political, economic, and citizen-centered diplomatic activities done in the past weeks. According to the ambassador, Ethiopia has expressed its unwavering stance toward peace for representatives of different international organizations. Have a listen to this.
Well, with regard to the Chinese intention to organize a peace conference on the Horn of Africa, I think every country has the intention of doing this. They have various proposals and various interventions. We are always ready and willing to cooperate with anyone who works on peace and peace efforts. If this is the case, I don't have details, we would appreciate the position.
Ambassador Dina said Ethiopia's bilateral and multilateral relations with Western countries are becoming stronger.
Ethiopia has a keen interest of strengthening relationship with all Western countries, irrespective of their size, economic growth, whatever. That is what we are doing whenever it comes to diplomatic relationship with Western countries. So we have an interest.
Well, dear viewers, we're going to stay on this issue, and to tell us more about the press briefing and, of course, other related issues, I'm joined by Ambassador Dina Mufti. And Ambassador, good evening and welcome to the news.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
First of all, I want to ask you this question, Ambassador. As you know, the United Nations Human Rights Body has decided to rerun the UNEHRC joint investigation, causing an unnecessary duplication of efforts and, of course, undermining Ethiopian Human Rights Commission. So what is Ethiopia's stance in this regard?
Well, basically, as you have already summarized it, the efforts and the findings that had been undertaken by the Ethiopian Human Rights Commission and that of the United Nations should be respected. The same findings should take place in Amhara and the Afar regions. Duplication of efforts should be overcome. These were the clear positions that Ethiopia has been advancing. And it is obvious that since these efforts of investigation has been undertaken by these independent and giant bodies, why a need for further investigation? Why a need for another one? Why a need for duplication? Isn't it a waste of time, resource, and everything else? These were some of the positions. This is the position that Ethiopia has been advancing, and it is a credible position as well.
Let's also talk about the Russo-Ukrainian war. As you know, the war is affecting the overall situation globally, be it in terms of economic peace and security. So I want to ask you this question as well. What can be said about this war's impact on Ethiopia?
Well, basically, as you have said, it's the war hampers or impedes maritime and aviation industries. This, in effect, lowers trade, tourism, investment, and the possibility for escalation is there, and that will be also very much dangerous because the forces that are involved are forces that own nuclear power. As has been already believed, nuclear confrontation will, in fact, result in mutual annihilation, which God forbids. Therefore, the need for peaceful solutions has no option. And this global impact also is an impact on Ethiopia. If it lowers trade, tourism, and investment, that has an impact on our country as well. Therefore, I think it is the universal concern of everyone, and everyone should make an effort to make sure that peaceful solution prevails and a win-win solution comes. Otherwise, this is actually is not in the interest of anyone on this planet Earth.
Absolutely. Ambassador, thank you so much for your ideas and good night.
Thank you very much. Have a nice evening. Take care.
KTV English will bring you fresh stories on the diplomatic arena.
Welcome back. You're still watching Addis News Hour. Now, the Ethiopian Government Communication Service announces that the ongoing law enforcement action being carried out across the nation is becoming effective. State Minister of Government Communications Service Salamawit Kasa said relative peace has been restored in Oromia State and the areas under the control of the terrorist group have been liberated. Kasa Unchane has more on that.
The Government Communication Service announced that respective bodies are striving to exert efforts to dismantle the structure of the terrorist group and take legal actions against OLF Shani and the TPLF banditries working day and night.
These terrorist groups were striving to achieve their evil goals to destabilize the peace and security of the nation. The groups have had their network, and based on that, they tried to commit other severe criminal acts. In the meantime, the government has been taking measures on those who were working tirelessly on illegal machine gun contraband issues, including illegal money transfer activities.
The State Minister Salamawit Kasa also added that due to ER's pre-existing knowledge of national intelligence and security, the government prevented the Al-Shabaab terrorist group, which has been active in the eastern part of the country.
In Somali State, and particularly in Oromia regional state adjacent areas, the terrorist Al-Shabaab had attempted to commit crimes and brutally attack innocent civilians through conducting wide-range evil act trainings. As a result, the government and the resident communities' participation have already dismantled these groups.
She said a visit and consultation forum of ambassadors to European Union member states would be held with the Ethiopian government and the African Union on various issues, emphasizing further that ambassadors of European Union, Political and Security Affairs Committee have arrived in Addis Ababa. More to the point, the State Minister underscored that the Ethiopian government would call for an independent inquiry into the crimes committed by the terrorist group in the Amhara and Afar regions, and for the Union to intensify its humanitarian assistance to Ethiopia.
Now, the World Health Organization has released its guidelines for the treatment of people co-infected with visceral leishmaniasis and HIV to recommend better treatments based on the results of 2 studies conducted by the Drugs for Neglected Disease Initiative, Médecins Sans Frontières, and their partners in Ethiopia and India. According to the guidelines in Ethiopia, the new treatment strategy shows to have an 88% efficiency rate at the end of therapy, whereas the efficiency of the current standard treatment was 55% in trial. WHO outlined the result is outstanding considering the difficulties to achieve treatment response in patients affected by both visceral leishmaniasis and HIV. The guidelines indicated young seasonal migrant workers who work in large farms exposed to sandflies bites are some of the people most at risk of co-infection in Ethiopia. Now in business, the State Minister of Finance received a delegation led by Mr. Wu, Corporate Services Department Associate Vice President of International Fund for Agricultural Development (IFAD) at her office. The State Minister, Samarata Soasu, recognized the close working relationship between the government of Ethiopia and IFAD for over 40 years and requested the fund to scale up its funding and explore new approaches for resource mobilization. The Associate Vice President acknowledged Ethiopia's reform agenda, notably the new agricultural and rural development policy and planned reform for the financial sector and opening of the economy to increase the private sector participation. The Vice President further noted IFAD's participation in the development process through the National Rural Economic Development and Food Security Platform under the Ministry of Agriculture. Now moving on, Ethiopia is an ideal place for data center. This remark was made by Anthony Voskardes, who is co-founder and CEO of Wingu Africa Data Center. Asaged Mulugeta has interviewed him, and Ojor David has compiled the following story.
What are the prerequisites for a certain data center to thrive? Is it the cooling system? Is it the temperature and everything? Do you find Ethiopia as a good space?
So data centers, they produce heat because the servers, they need electricity. The electricity is converted to data and what they're doing plus heat. So the heat, obviously, you need to exchange it with the outside air. And this is done through air conditioning, or what we call HVAC, high volume air conditioning. But the lower the outside temperature, the better you are at exchanging. So we have something called power usage factor, PUE. It's a way of measuring how efficient a data center is. If you're looking at a place like Djibouti, where you have in summer 50, 55 degrees centigrade temperature, you can imagine it's not very efficient in exchanging internal with external air. But here in Addis, you have wonderful temperatures, especially at this altitude. So there are the challenges of getting everything right. You've got to get right the generators and all these different bits because you have altitude and this affects performance of things, so you have to derate. But on the other hand, you have these wonderful calm temperatures. You have lots of water and you have green energy being produced in the country. It's really a great spot. And that's why, in our view, this is a hub. It's a hub for data centers. And I think that you will see going forward how this will grow and grow because you have the energy and you have the climate that is supportive. Unless, of course, you go up to the ice areas, which are also very good, but they're far away from your customer. So you want to be milliseconds from your customer, not hundreds of milliseconds from your customer. So it is a very good location for that.
Amazing. So that will bring us to the issue of green energy. And how I want to hear your take on the green energy development here in Ethiopia. The Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam is one thing that we are working on. And the power issues are one thing that we are working on. So I want to hear your take on that.
Well, first of all, your country is blessed with the generation of power through the dams. This is a fantastic opportunity. I think the reason you're seeing the power cuts is just the grid needs to evolve with it. It needs to be upgraded and things fixed up. And this is happening now already. So the power generation exists at the source. It's very stable. And the grid is being constantly upgraded. So this is fantastic. For example, a data center to run purely on green is very difficult. But in Ethiopia, because the power source is green, the time we're not green is when the generators are up. To augment this power, once the roof system is completely finished, it'll be completely loaded with solar panels. And this will give us some additional power developed through, renewable, the sun. So this is something we're doing in addition to minimize it. But data center needs a lot of power. And having this from the source is phenomenal.
You're still watching Addis News Hour, and now let's take a quick look at the exchange rates of some currencies, and I'll be right back.
Hello and welcome. You're watching Addis News Hour with the headline.
Thank you for joining me here at the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa.
Good evening to you all. Very warm welcome to ETV News. I am Grum Tariq.
Good morning, you're watching Addis News Hour, commencing with the headlines.
Remedies for polarized politics affecting its peace and stability.
ATV English will bring you fresh stories on the diplomatic arena.
And now in our continental news coverage, the African Union Transition Mission in Somalia, Ethiopian contingent that has completed its tour of duty in Beledweyne has been feted for its service in advancing peace in Somalia. The Ethiopian contingent, along with Somali security forces, has been undertaking effective peacekeeping activities in Somalia. Haptam Ashagri has compiled the following story.
The contingent, who was based in Sector 4 in Hijra region of Hirshabelle State, received African Union certificates of merit for distinguished service in securing peace and working closely with Somali security forces. The security forces have been working closely to deter threats from Al-Shabaab terrorists for over 2 years in Somalia. ATMIS Sector 4 Deputy Commander Colonel Shoas Kibret appreciated the troops for their gallantry and for playing a significant role in contributing to peace in Somalia. According to the Deputy Commander, AMISOM troops and security forces have been undertaking effective peacekeeping activities in the region.
We are conducting our mission based on ATMIS mandate with stakeholders for UNIMAS and AMISOM and local administration for Hiran region and security, SNA. During this time, we are succeed still now without any problem in our human resource and material resource to protect from Al-Shabaab defeat.
ATMIS Sector 4, based in Beledweyne, is a multinational sector served also by the Djibouti Armed Forces. Ethiopia has thousands of troops in Somalia as part of AMISOM, the African Union force fighting Al-Shabaab.
Well, dear viewers, let's also take a quick look at the weather updates of some African nations. have been watching Addis News Hour. Now, a quick reminder of the top stories. Leaders of Ethiopia and Djibouti express keenness to lift bilateral ties to a higher level. And Communication Ministry reiterates Ethiopia has unwavering stance for peace. And with that, we come to the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching us. Bye-bye.